One. Paint me like the French girls, Jack.
You got to cut it off, Mike, in time so we don't get censored here.
I'm sure the whole thing will get thrown out if it went any longer. But what's up, everybody? It's the Crack House Podcast. My name is Mike O'Sullivan. Joining me, as always, Chris Muscalino. What's up, dude?
What's up, Miguel? Big win for the Mets yesterday. Opening day baseball. The Yankees win. The Yankees win.
Yeah, they pulled. What they play? 11 innings. They pulled it out.
Yeah.
I think they were losing the most. I just checked the score on my phone, and I saw they were losing like most of the game, and then they came back at the end.
Was going back and forth with Macho, like on a private text with you and I before. I don't know if you saw. Our guy Judge turned down $230 million and trying to talk Macho off the ledge.
Dude, how do you do that, man? That's got to be crazy. Like, someone offers you 230. Now, how many years is that contract?
They were talking 7 with an option for an 8th.
Wow.
But look, the guy's 30 years old. I completely get what Macho's saying, and I agree with him to an extent. It's like, dude, you're 30 years old. You've been hurt 3 out of the last 5 years. I get he wants to get paid, and he wants to get paid big, but you haven't won anything. You're not Mike Trout. You haven't won 3 MVPs. He's a great player. He's the face of the franchise.
Oh, yeah.
He's betting on himself. And what I was telling Macho, I think a lot of Yankee fans wouldn't like to see him sign in Flushing with the Mets if it ever got to that.
Oh, yeah.
So I think he's got a little of that going. But the Yankees, listen, for all the money that the Yankees have spent, they've gotten very frugal with their bigger players throughout the years. And I even remember Matty's guy Jeter back in the day. They gave him a hard time on his last contract.
Yeah, I remember that. Like, Cashman was like, if he wants to explore other options, let him go right ahead. And I mean, that too is it was like his last big. He was looking for that last big payday, and he was way past his prime by then. And it was like, no one's going to pay
the Yankees. I have confidence they'll sign him, but look, he thinks he's worth more. He thinks he can get 35. He wants to be paid like a top player, and we'll see what happens. But it's nice to have baseball back. Got my little Ranger hat on today. I'm not really a big hockey fan anymore, but they're doing very well too. And it's good to see sports back. The stadiums look packed. The Mets had a big win on Thursday. They look good, even though they're kind of banged up right now. And we'll see, man. We'll see.
We'll see. Season just started.
I got a little shirt in the background, straight out of Astoria, and that's for Macho. We're from the tough streets of Astoria, not Jackson Heights, Macho.
It's the hood, man. It's the hood. Speaking of the hood, Will Smith, 10-year ban.
I saw that, man. I saw that. We'll get into the Grammys and I guess the Oscars, the fallout from last week as well.
10 years, man. Jesus.
But you know what? Who cares? The guy's gonna make movie after movie,
That's what I said. I put that tweet out. Like, can you imagine if he really though if he does like 5 or 6 amazing movies in a row where he should be nominated?
It was a great point you brought up. I think that ultimately, I don't think anybody really gives a shit. I think the award shows in general are in the toilet. I led off with Titanic. It's the 25th anniversary and of that movie. It was released December 19th. And the last 25 years, I mean, how much has the movie industry changed? How much has the pageantry changed? And how much has the viewership changed from these award shows?
Well, I mean, I think that all comes down to the last 2.5 years, basically. It changed the game with a lot of stuff. I mean, people weren't leaving their house. Yeah, they were putting stuff onto streaming services real quick. You have the in the last like 10 years, really, the streaming services just took off as far as original programming. Now people are, I'm waiting for Ozark to finally finish up, waiting for that to come out on Netflix. Hulu has a whole bunch of shows. Netflix has a whole bunch of shows. Amazon, you have all of these streaming on top of regular just cable. So, I mean, the game's just changed immensely just in this last decade. As far as people still want to go to the movies, though. I know a bunch of people. I know you saw Batman in the theater.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of people that have gone to go that I know have gone to go see it in the theater. The thing made a ton of cash already in the movie theater. I think next week it comes out on HBO. That's when I'll probably catch it. But yeah, the whole game is changed. I mean, Titanic, if Titanic came out now, it probably would have been on Netflix. It might have went out in the movies for like a few weeks and it would have gone to streaming very quickly. Chris, you got no volume. We can't hear you. Well, Chris is out again. Oh, he's back. He's back. No, can't hear him now. He's out again. Heard something. I'm hearing the tapping. Oh, no, don't hear anything. Oh. He might have to put tinfoil on the rabbit ears to get reception. That might work.
I don't know what is going on.
Oh, I hear you now. Loud and clear. Yeah, now I can. Don't move your head. Just leave your head tilted like that and maybe that'll work. I don't know.
Sorry, folks.
But yeah, like you said, all right, if Titanic comes out now, does it stay in the theaters that long or does it go right to, after a couple of months, it's on Netflix or Amazon or Hulu or whatever?
I think if it came out now, Mike, I think it would have gone the way of the Batman, in the current environment. I think they definitely would have released it into the movies first, especially that was a $200 million budget back in 97. So if you count for inflation today, I mean, you're probably looking at another $50 to $100 million with inflation adjusted. They're not releasing that straight on streaming. Sorry. And Cameron's the type of guy, in my opinion, he's the type of producer that I think he's like one of those FU producers that want no part of, these streaming services. I think his ego's just too big.
Yeah. You know what, though? I think if Netflix, it seems, has so much money now, it seems they could just approach a guy like him and be like, listen, here's $150 million. Do whatever you want. Go make a movie.
Well, you're going to see it when Avatar, the sequels for Avatar.
I mean, but yeah, and that's been forever.
Right.
I mean, how long does it take to really make? I mean, it's been like
you had COVID. You had COVID, which
all right, there's 2 years, but he's been going like almost 10 years with this sequel.
Kind of like the Guns N' Roses albums. Remember those?
Yeah.
It took forever to come out. I was reading something the other day. It's like that band, how big were they in the 80s? And all of a sudden, poof, they went with this huge lapse of, without releasing stuff. And then you're talking like 25 years later or 20 years later, and it's like all of a sudden they're getting back together and allegedly they're supposed to release some sort of new material. And I always think back, it's like, for guys like us, we grew up with them. I just don't think the younger generation gets how important they were. Like when we were the younger generation's age, the Stones were kind of like the Guns N' Roses of the day. And we had reverence for the Stones, but the Stones had a huge body of work, And I just feel like Guns N' Roses had such a lapse of material that I think for a lot of the younger kids today, they may know who they are, but I don't think it's the same way.
I don't think anyone cares. I don't think kids care about them. The music industry has changed so much to like hip hop, R&B kind of music. No one gives a shit about rock. I mean, like, what's the biggest rock and roll band right now? I have no idea.
Tough to say, man. Tough to say. I mean,
the Strokes, are they big?
No,
I mean, I don't.
No. Very tough. I mean, it's tough, man. I can't really name one off the top of my head. Like you said, it's the genre is a little bit different.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's no one's listening. I don't know any.
What do you classify as rock? I mean, that's the real question.
That's the other thing. What are they down as? So
I would still say maybe Pearl Jam's up there. I would say Coldplay's up there.
Well, all right, you have a teenage kid.
Foo Fighters are probably it.
All right, you have a teenager. What is your
Yep.
teenager? Did your teenager listen to any of those
You know, the funny
bands?
thing, Mike, is, and maybe, I don't know, maybe you could speak for your kid too. They listen to retro music, and I think a lot of it's got to do with the video games. So my son, for example, has got a great voice. He's very shy about it, but he likes music. I guess he got it from me and stuff. But he comes out and like he's humming and singing like this stuff that was popular when we were kids, or even like my parents listened to him. And I'm like, where the hell did this kid get it? Like you said, what's popular today? A lot of the stuff in the video games, in terms of like the intros and what have you, they're in these games, and these kids kind of seep through. So like he'll come up with a jingle from the 80s, and it's like, where the hell did you listen to that? He's like, singing Centerfold by Jay Giles band. It's like, how the hell did this kid know?
Well, kind of. All right, you can even go back like when my son was like probably like 5-6 years old. Go back to Guitar Hero.
Yeah,
all the songs
right.
on Guitar Hero. Like he thought Slow Ride was made up just for that game. Until like I explained to it, no,
that's
like
exactly right.
That was a song, 30 years ago. But yeah, there is no like, I don't know a rock and roll band right now.
I think it's the Foo Fighters. I mean, if you had to pick one band, I think they're probably the biggest right now. That's just my opinion. I think they're still big enough. I think with Tyler Hawkins passing away a week or two ago, I mean, that kind of put them in the forefront of things. But they've been touring. They're really good. They got a shitload of people.
But I'm saying too, what I mean by that too is I'm talking about a new band.
A new band?
The Foo Fighters are a 25-year-old rock and roll band, basically. I'm talking about what's the new rock and roll. That's what I meant when I said a band like the Strokes, what's another band? The 1975, like kind of rock music in that kind of genre. What's that band? I mean, I know you got those heavier bands like Five Finger Death Punch and like that genre of like real heavy metal. But as far as like a rock and roll band, I don't know any.
Tough to say. I think a lot of them are retro. I think a lot of them kind of skew the definition of rock. As far as, like you said, you named a couple of them. I don't think any of those acts are really, big at this point. I think 21 Pilots are probably big. I think Imagine Dragons are probably big. I think One Republic, Fall Out Boy's probably still big. Those are a couple right off the top of my head.
Yeah. Okay.
Again, I think in terms of popularity, I still think it's the Foo Fighters.
Overall popular, yeah. Because all right, I get exactly what you're saying then when you say something like that. Just in their staying power and their body of work. So,
I still think Green Day's got some staying power, but again, you're talking a band that's 20+ years old at this
Which
point.
band? Who?
Green Day.
Oh, Green. What have they? But they're a band though too. It's like, what have you done for me lately?
They've got some stuff out. I think Maroon 5 is a big band. I mean, if you classify them as rock, again, you kind of skew the term, in terms of like,
you delve into that genre of picking it apart. Really, is this rock? I mean, is that rock?
Do you classify Harry Styles and
no
those
rock
guys
and roll?
as rock and roll? No, I don't think so. But the genre has changed. Like that heavily, African American blues beat that you had that the Stones picked up on. I think it's gone by the, it's evolved. I think a lot of it's evolved into hip hop and R&B and that type of stuff, which is where those, the origins of rock and roll, started. So tough to say, but going back to the Titanic, you're absolutely correct. I mean, I think things have evolved, but it's the staying power of it all. Talk about the Titanic for a second. I mean, I think the boat kind of launched, the actual event. I think they left dock on April 12th of 1912. I think it sank 3 days later, April 15th. And in terms of the release date on the movie, I think it was December 19th of 1997. Did you get married that year, or was it 98?
98.
98. Okay. So let me ask you a question. Back in the day, your wedding song?
No.
You had to play that, right, at that point?
It might have been played at the wedding, but it wasn't the wedding song.
Right.
I will say this. To me, I think this movie is one of the most overrated movies ever made.
Tough. I think guys our age definitely have that opinion. I don't think it's an unpopular opinion for us.
It was to paint a picture. This movie was shoved down everyone's throat when it came out.
Oh, absolutely.
It got that this is the greatest movie ever made, and it was a lot of money made. The only thing I enjoyed was the special effects at the end when you're watching the boat sink and you're watching it crack in half and fall, and then
phenomenal.
And then all of these theories come out that she could have got him on that piece of wood.
Oh, that's still the controversy 25 years later.
Like she just let him. She was like, yeah, whatever, man.
Right. But
and then she throws away an $80 million diamond
at the old broad.
I would have thrown her in right after it.
The crazy part of it is I'm looking at the top 10 all-time highest grossing movies of all time. Not one is prior to 2000, and check this out. Prior to the year 2000, there's none on the list other than Titanic. And Titanic, 25 years later, still clocks in at number 3 at $2.2 billion worth of revenue. That's crazy, man. Avatar still won at 2.8. Avengers is 2. And, I see a couple there that I really would have never guessed. Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, is number 4 at $2 billion, a little over $2 billion. You got the Infinity War, Spider-Man No Way Home, Jurassic World, Lion King, The Avengers, the 2012 release, and then Furious 7. So there's nothing prior to 2000 beside in the top 10 other than Titanic.
Well, I mean, too, you got to realize how many more people are going to the movie, how much more. I think because they said something, Gone with the Wind. If it was released, I'm trying to remember what year they did this. They adjusted it to say like 1999 inflation.
Right.
The movie would have made about $500 million. So It wasn't that, and that's just in the United States. They said how many people saw it and what it was worth. And they said back then too, you got to realize when that movie came out, there was no TV. People would go see Gone with the Wind 2 to 3 times. Whereas, I mean, there aren't that many people I know that will go say, like, I'm going to go watch Batman 3 times in the theater.
I don't think there's any movie in the last 20 years that I think I could honestly say that I would have gone back to maybe watch. Maybe the Lord of the Rings, one of the Lord of the Rings movies, but they were super long. And you know what it is, Mike, at this point, you've been to my house. I mean, I've got an 80, close to an 80-inch TV in my living room. It's like, once it's out on streaming services and stuff, I mean, there's no reason for it.
We've basically brought the theater experience home. There's no reason to go out. None. I'll wait. Like, all right, Batman came out. I know what's today. The 9th, the 10th. I don't even know what day it is. I'm so old.
8th, Friday the 8th.
Today's the 8th. All right. Next Friday, I'm watching Batman on my couch in my underwear or my pajamas, laying down in a prone position and watching Batman. And I can pause it whenever I want, get up whenever I want, watch it late, watch half now, half later. So.
Well, let me point something else out to you. I was reading somewhere like they were talking about the millennials, and I'm talking about people like specifically born like 1990, 91, kind of like when we were getting out of high school. So this was probably the first real big time movie that people really spoke about of that generation. For those kids who were born in 1991, 1992, they were too young to remember the Terminator 2, which was, I guess, the really, the biggest blockbuster up, in that kind of decade for them. And then up until that point, there's really nothing to talk about until Titanic came out. They were maybe 6, 7 years old, right?
Oh, yeah. If you're born, because I want to say Jurassic Park's like 93, 94.
Still too young for it.
Way too young.
But if you're born in 1990, 1991, you're probably 6, 7 years old. Even if you don't go to the movies, if you're not going and seeing the movie, you knew what Titanic was back then. You know?
Yeah. What, like I said, like we were saying, this thing got shoved down everyone's throat. Celine Dion had that song that just wouldn't go away. So They were married hand in hand. It made a huge star out of both of them, DiCaprio and Kate Winslet. You
Who,
know,
by the way, both of them had decent careers. I mean, him obviously much better than her, but she came out with that HBO series last year that was pretty good. I think
she won the Academy Award for
right.
something. What she did some other movie a few years down the road after that. She's won an Academy Award. He took forever to win the Academy Award. So I mean, they both had stellar careers.
I like Leo, man. Leo's decent, man. He's had a lot of decent movies throughout the years. I mean, I'm not a fanboy, but I'll give credit where credit's due. But she did the Mayor of Easttown, which I think we talked about last year, which was pretty good. Detective type series, based in Pennsylvania on HBO. She's a couple years younger than us, not too much younger. I think so. See, I think they're 46, 47, probably our brother's age. But they've both had really good careers. I mean, obviously he's been in The Departed. He's been in a ton of stuff, but that we've mentioned throughout the years.
He's basically now like Scorsese's new De Niro. It
Yeah.
seems like he's his go-to guy now for a movie. So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And he's got his own production company. I think he also makes movies with Brad Pitt. I mean, they did Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but I think they own part of a production company as well. Yeah, dude, the guy, who wouldn't want to be him? Supermodels galore. Every movie he's made recently is just like a smash hit.
And has he ever been married? I don't think the kid's ever been married.
No,
I can call him a kid.
No, not that I know of.
I guess maybe if I had that kind of money, maybe I wouldn't be.
Hey, if you're him, man, go. Why get married? Just, dude, you're Leonardo DiCaprio. Every night you can do whatever you want. No one think about it. No, when's the last time someone told him no? It's got to be nice.
Right.
It's got to be nice, man.
But I'm looking at her IMDb. She's had a lot of stuff too, man. Obviously she's not Leo, but she's had a decent career, man. I'm looking at it. British actress, obviously. Let's see, she's done obviously a ton of TV stuff. Did you ever watch that movie with her with Revolutionary Road? Did you ever see that?
That's with him too, right?
Yeah.
I saw part of it. It's supposed to be
that was really good. And apparently, supposedly they're getting together again, and they're going to come out with a new project soon that they're going to announce as well. I guess in anticipation of the anniversary of the actual release date in December. So we'll see, man. We'll see. I think I brought it up. The actual event of the Titanic sinking is kind of like around this time period, April 12th to the 15th of 1912.
Yeah, there's actually, on the West Side Highway where the boat was supposed to dock, there's an archway down by like the meatpacking district on 14th Street and like the West Side Highway. It's this old arch. It looks like a building that fell down, and it's just this arch that's like left standing, and it was made for the Titanic, to like welcome the Titanic into New York, and it's never been torn down. It's like a
left out of Liverpool, I believe.
Yeah, and they left it up there as like a historic landmark kind of deal.
Built by the Irish, I think in Dublin. The ship was built, and a lot of interesting stuff. I think it sunk the day that Fenway Park was open, if I'm not mistaken. The first day that Fenway Park opened up in 1912 was the day the ship sunk. And they kind of tied it into like the conspiracy, curse of the Bambino type stuff,
Could be.
Some interesting shit with that. But do you remember back in the 80s how long it took to actually find that ship?
Yeah. They just kept and then finally James Cameron, was like, then they found it, and then he started going down there and just taking pictures of everything. And
remember the HBO special Raising, or the movie Raising the Titanic?
Yeah, I remember the movie. Yeah, it wasn't real. It was like a science fiction movie.
It was a science fiction movie, right? And didn't they actually, if I'm not mistaken, in that movie, didn't they actually raise the damn thing to the surface?
The end of the movie, they do like some explosion floating thing, and it pops up. I don't even know who the hell was in that. What the hell was?
Dude, that was like early 1980s, if I'm not mistaken.
Raising the Titanic. Yeah, what a bomb of them. Like,
it was a bomb of the movie, but it was like one of those movies for those that are too young. Like back in the day, HBO, you know, they had certain movies that they just rotated in and out. It didn't really matter if they were big or not. And it's not like today where you can just press a button and just go to the movie that you want to watch. You know, you literally were stuck with like 5 or 6 movies for that particular month. And there were certain movies that just felt like they were like endless loops. And Raising the Titanic, like I guess in that time period, for whatever reason, it just jarred my memory because we're talking about it. It just felt like the thing was constantly on.
It's not
You
even
know,
on
and
IMDb. I can't even find it. I'm putting Raising the Titanic. That's how bad this movie was.
dude, it was dreadful. I don't like you said, I don't even remember who the actors were in it, but
Yeah.
I remember towards the end the special effects were pretty good. And the biggest thing back then was you couldn't they didn't know where the hell the thing sunk. You know, they
Yeah.
couldn't locate it. And looks like Richard Jordan was in it. James Roberts was, I guess, Roberts. Alec Guinness, Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Oh, you
He's coming
found
out
it?
next month. Yep. Ann Archer, J.D. Cannon, Dirk Blocker, Dave
Yeah.
Selby.
What year was it?
1980.
Wow.
So that was kind of like in the sweet spot, Mike. You know, when I guess people transitioned from like Betamax to HBO, WHT.
Yeah.
For those that remember it,
I had WHT for a little while.
which was cool, man. You know, you got cool stuff like Pee Wee's Playhouse and stuff on WHT, and
Yeah.
right, a lot of the comedy specials.
Well, that's like way before we had cable, you know. Cable. Remember, you had to turn it. There was the little thing in the back of the TV to switch it to HBO.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Same thing with
the,
like Atari and shit like that.
Yep. And then there was the whatchamacallit. Then there was the VCR. All of a sudden, everybody, you know, you didn't kind of need that, and then that was really the death of WHD and what have you. But speaking of comedians, what did you know? I know you do the shows and stuff. What do you think of this guy, this rapper Ti storming the stage on some sort of comedian?
Yeah,
Did you read about that?
Yeah, I actually saw the video of it. He's, from what I've heard, he's trying to become a stand-up comedian. And
Ti,
I mean, yeah, Ti is, you know, the king of the South,
right?
and he still lives down in Atlanta. And from what's been said is he's basically hitting all like the comedy clubs in Atlanta and just going up and doing time. Now, most of the time when you're starting out, you're getting like 5 minutes on stage if you're lucky. Some places give you 3, some places give you 4. Usually you get 5, you know, average around 5 minutes. He's Ti. He wants to go up and do like 20, 30 minutes on stage. And supposedly he walks in, and from what it seems like, he walks in like he owns the place, every place he goes into.
It's Ti, bro.
He's fucking big deal. He went to fucking jail. Who cares who the fuck he is? Is he funny though? From what I've heard, he's not that great. He's already had another problem. Like, this is the second problem he's kind of had. There was a beef with another comedian, Godfrey, who's a headliner. He's been doing comedy like 20 years.
Not Gilbert Godfrey.
No, he's a big black dude, Godfrey. He's like this jacked up black dude. Very funny guy. Has a show, I think, on like Gas Digital. And he was headlining a club down in Atlanta. And then Ti came in afterwards and was like, now I want to go on stage. And he went up and did 20 minutes or whatever. And I think he talked a little shit about the last guy that was up. And, you know, Godfrey kind of like didn't stick around to watch his act. He's like, I don't need to watch his act. I've been doing comedy for 20 years. I don't want to watch some guy not do what I do what he's trying to do 10 times better. But this one he caused a problem with. From what it was, some girl on stage, he talked some shit about her, telling her to like take her wig off. He just kept trying to fuck with her. And then she went back at him like, address your assault allegations first, and then we'll talk about this.
Right. And he
got all bent out of shape. He ripped the mic out of her hand. He talked a whole bunch of shit. I have a feeling this is going to end. His reign of comedy is going to end in violence because he's going to say something to the wrong person. and they're just gonna like jump him on stage or something. Someone's gonna hit him.
Well, I was going to say, based on last week or 2 weeks ago, Will Smith, which you talked about, right, in his 10-year ban, I got to imagine it kind of changes everything in terms of comedy right now. I mean,
Well, it's
comedy is
not
like one
even
of those
that.
things.
It's not even like in that what you're trying to get at. I'm talking about this. Like this guy just talking shit to everybody, and someone's like, I don't give a fuck that you're Ti. Someone's just gonna punch him in the face.
Well, yeah,
Someone's
that's what
gonna
I'm
hit,
getting. That's exactly what I'm getting at.
and
People
it's
saw what happened with
and,
Rock, right?
but
Chris
it's not
Rock
even
and
gonna
Will.
be that. It's just him agitating people.
Yeah,
This
no, I get
guy.
it.
It's not gonna be because of like what he said. He's just gonna be like, fuck you, I'm Ti. I'm here to do my, and then people are gonna be like, get off the stage. We don't like you. And he's gonna, yeah, like he caused it with the, and he went after this woman who runs, I think like she runs an open mic down there, and they really went back and forth for like 20 minutes. I mean,
No, I agree. I mean, I read the story, and I
and
kind of get your take.
from from
Um,
from what I'm getting too, he's like very smart that he's staying down in Atlanta right now, because I think if he takes this act on the road, it's not going to fly too well. Because he's like from what most people have said, he really is the king of the South down there. I think he's lived in Atlanta for almost his entire life. He's like a god down there. So
and I think when it comes to
he's like the way
comedy,
Billy Joel is on Long Island.
right,
He
right.
can
I
probably
think that
walk in any place he wants, and people will bow down. What do you want? What do you need? So,
and that's a great point, Mike. I think there's some acts, whether they be comedy, music, actors. Well, not so much actors, but I think comedy and musicians, especially the regional types, that are associated with a region. It's funny that you bring up Billy Joel. Like, I think if you go to different parts of the country, it's like Billy Joel never existed, you know? And it's crazy to think how big he was back in the 80s and even the early 90s. And you hit it on the head on Long Island. He's a god.
yeah.
But I'm I'm not a huge Billy Joel fan, but I'm big enough to know his music. I play his music. I still play his music at events, time to time. And here on Long Island, he's a god. I just feel like he for the level of superstar that he was, I don't think he ever got the kind of credit that he kind of deserved. I used to break my
No, he's had a nice career. I mean,
well, that's exactly what I'm saying. Like you just said it. You said it like he's got a nice career, but Roddy, but he was a superstar. Like he wasn't at the Michael
yeah.
Jackson level, but he was up there, man.
Well,
At one
that's
point.
yeah. You got to remember too. Yeah, he was no. I mean, all right. Go back to what do you got? All right, go back to Innocent Man. That's like 82, 80. He's competing with Thriller.
Right.
You're competing with dude. Whoever came out, you could probably go back right now. Whatever year Thriller came out was 84, I think.
83.
83 or 84. Go back and see what else came out, man, and who you. I think Synchronicity comes out around that time by the police. I mean, you probably got some
Obviously.
big hits, but you're going up against the greatest single album probably of all time. You're going to lose. Like
I call him the Don Mattingly of music. Mattingly's another guy that had like a 4 or 5 year stretch where he really was the best player in baseball. And I'll tell you what, I think Billy Joel from like 83 to like 87. Think about all the stuff that he released in that time period.
Well, see, Chris, I'll go back because we were too young. Go back to like his mid 70s stuff.
Oh, big stuff.
That's what I'm saying. He's got that run too. He's got over a 10-year run of where he's in the zone for a decade where every album came.
I think the point I'm trying to make to you, Mike, is that if you just like T.I., like you said, if T.I. came up to New York, I don't think he, number one, whether he's funny or not, I don't think it would translate well up here. I don't think he'd have the leeway. Nor, like you said, I don't think a lot of people have familiarity with him other than people are in the music business or like hip hop and really know his stuff.
No, I mean, people know who I'm saying.
They know who he is, obviously. But, as far as like Billy Joel, I think like if you went into a bar in Texas or like a bar like in Georgia, I think they may know of him, especially folks our age, people our age, but like the younger generation, I think it wouldn't. I think that kind of stuff just doesn't translate, very well. Even more so like niche, niche type stuff. I just think that like with the level of popularity that guy had, I just think that he just doesn't get the respect that he a guy of that stature should. Let's put it that way. You know, maybe I'm off, but
he's probably worth like $300 million, so I don't give a shit.
Oh, no doubt.
So
no doubt.
And he still sells out the Garden like every month. He still does his little residency and makes probably like, I would love to know what he makes for that show once a month.
He signed a huge deal. He signed a 50 gig deal with MSG.
Yeah, but
about
he's over
10 years ago.
Yeah, and he's over like 75 now, I think.
Yeah.
It might be at like 100.
And he's in his 70s. I saw the last show at Nassau Coliseum with him. He was phenomenal. You know, you're sitting there and you're like, you know, like you said, you grew up with some of this stuff, you know, our parents grew up with him in the 70s, you know, so, you know, you get that nostalgia aspect of it, but he was good, man. He was good. He had a guy that Big Shot, which is a cover band of him, I guess that opened up the show for him, which was kind of weird, but
they're big on Long Island, that band, right? Big Shot. I've heard of them.
They're good, man. They're good. And the guy sounds just like him. You know, he has them do like a 30-minute set or 45-minute set before he comes on. And it's good. You know, he's all over the place, that guy, Big Shot. I think he was involved in a musical too, if I'm not mistaken, of the same name. I'd have to go back and look, but
I think he had something on Broadway. I'm pretty sure.
Did you check out the Grammys at all? I mean, I know we were just talking about.
No, I didn't think no one's getting smacked. So I mean, we've passed it.
I didn't either, but you know, obviously, with, you know, dabbling in the music business, I definitely read up on it. Seemed like Olivia Rodrigo cleaned up. The Weeknd, I guess, boycotted it. The Weeknd was the guy at the Super Bowl a couple years ago that was wandering around in the maze like he was lost and stuff and confused. That
I know
for a lot of people. I know who he is.
I have no idea who Olivia Rodrigo is.
She had a big hit last year.
I'm sure
a couple big hits.
She's probably a amazing. Like if I hear the song, I'll probably be like, oh, okay, that's who she is. But that's where I'm at now. I'll hear a song and be like, that's a great song, but I probably have no idea who sings it.
She sings a song called "Goodbye to You" or something like that, or "Good for You." I think the name of the song is. I could probably play a snippet, but no, that's not it. And we'll come back to that in a few minutes. You ever hear this?
No. I don't know. They all sound alike. I don't know.
Yeah, but you know what it is. She's very popular though. She had a couple of big hits last year. You know, obviously, looks like stayed on time. It was about 3.5 hours.
Oh, what was the big thing too? What was it Louis C.K. won for best comedy album?
I was just going to mention that to you. Right.
People freaked out about that. I guess his ban is over with. But I think he's a guy who's like, he does a lot of shit on his own little website. I know he put out a comedy special this year that was only on his website that you had to pay to download or whatever it was, $5 or $10. It seems like he's slowly coming back. He shows up in clubs. I know they were putting up, whenever he played like the Comedy Cellar, they would put up a warning that he was there as to not to trigger anyone. But he does
What do you mean, trigger him or trigger the audience?
No, trigger the audience. Like if the Comedy Cellar is known for like, I mean, the Comedy Cellar is the most popular club in New York City. It's the most popular comedy club. It's the cathedral of comedy clubs in New York. That's where you want to be. That's where I want to be. I want to work at the Cellar. You want to tell people, yeah, I'm at the Cellar. The Cellar is known for like, oh, Chris Rock's around. I mean, to use an example, oh, Chris Rock's around. Chris Rock is just going to walk downstairs into the Cellar and be like, I want to get up and do 10 minutes. And it's like that's one of the main attractions of the Cellar. That's a place Chappelle just played there a few weeks ago. He was charging like $200 a ticket. He was playing there. And there's another club about 10 blocks away called the Stand. They're probably the two biggest comedy clubs in New York City. The Cellar's number one, Stand is like 1A. And those two clubs, you could go there and see like a bunch of, you know, regular comedians, not that famous, and then all of a sudden Kevin Hart shows up and goes, I want to go do 10 minutes. That's what those clubs are known for.
Okay.
But you don't know. Like, you just bought a ticket to go see 4 or 5 semi-popular comedians, and now Kevin Hart shows up. I mean, I went to the Comedy Cell is broken up into 3 clubs. I was in their smallest club one night at a show, just watching a show, and Tiffany Haddish walked up and did 5 minutes. And I mean, that's the kind of that's what those places are known for. I was
there
one
comics, Mike. For the biggest comics out there, not to cut you off, what's the going rate for like those tickets? Like if you want to see Chris Rock or Chappelle.
Well, it depends. Like, you're going to see. Well, Chris Rock, I heard, is through the roof now since everything happened. But I think if you were going to, like, all right, if what's his face? All right, let's just say Kevin Hart is at the Garden. I think you're paying basically what you pay to go see like a regular concert.
Regular concert, about $200, $250.
Because a lot of these, I mean, they're so. You look at guys like Bill Burr, Kevin Hart, Chris Rock. These guys are so popular. They're not even. It's not like just one night at the Garden. They're doing. Some of them are doing 2 and 3 nights at the Garden. So it's not, the demand isn't that great if they're doing 3 nights. So
I, from what you're telling me, I mean, it sounds like some of these guys are probably in the same stratosphere as like some of these musical acts.
Oh yeah,
as far as,
they're touring the country doing
right.
Stadiums basically. I mean, like the Chappelle stuff where I just said it was $200. All right, it's the same thing saying go pay $200 and you're going to sit in a room with 100 people and you're going to watch Eric Clapton do a show. That's what it's. I mean, if you equate it to that, if you're going into the Comedy Cellar and like I said, Chappelle just pops in and goes, I want to do 10 minutes. And they just jump on stage and go. And you're like, holy shit. I just paid $30 and this guy popped in. But when he's doing a show, it's about, for the Comedy Cellar, it's going to be more. And for the standards, because it's a way more intimate setting, it's going to be almost less than 200 people in a room, and there's Dave Chappelle just doing his thing. Or a guy like Bill Burr or Kevin Hart or things like that. So
that's pretty interesting. I mean, I think we talked about this before with McCartney coming to the Meadowlands or MetLife in June. We were talking about a couple weeks ago on, who might pop up. I guess it's similar. Or like when I saw Billy Joel at Nassau Coliseum, he didn't really have anybody. I don't think Elton John came on that one, but usually they kind of mix and match. And I think the Bruce Springsteen show that I saw years ago now at Shea Stadium, I think he had Bob Dylan come up, so I think he made an appearance.
Yeah,
so I guess that's kind of the same deal, in comedy, like what you're talking about, like you
go buy a ticket like picture going to. I mean, Mulcahy's is a pretty big place, but picture like going to a bar that fits maybe like 120 people, and like you said, just Springsteen walks in and just like, hey man, I want to belt out a couple of tunes, and you're like, holy shit. I mean, I know after 9/11 there's a place up in the Bronx. It's closed now. It's under a different name. It used to be known as Jimmy's Bronx Cafe. It's right. Okay. It used to be right along the Major Deegan Expressway. It's still there. It's something like a barbecue place now. One of my friends went there. It was like, now this place fit maybe 300 people.
Okay.
He watched Bowie do an acoustic set right after 9/11.
Oh wow!
That's and the guy cool. And the guy Tommy that I know went to go. He goes, I was literally 10 feet away from
David Bowie
just doing a set. I saw. Well, who did I see? I saw Billy Joel like just about 2 years ago. And the only guest he had the daughter come out, and the daughter did a song. I think Alexa. I think that's one of his kids.
Yeah,
she came out. I guess she's trying to get her own little career going, musical career. She came out and did a song with him. I think off of her album. I didn't even know she had an album out. But
some of the coolest places must be like akin to like some of these comedy shows that you do, where like you go into like a small club or a bar, and all of a sudden you're like feet away from the artist. I'm a big fan of this. No, it's not an indie band called The Hold Steady, with this guy Craig, and it's like alternative rock. But I saw them downtown in the Village, kind of like near where the Cat's Deli is. You know where that is?
Yeah, on the Lower East Side there.
Right. So on the Lower East Side, I've seen a number of bands down there, and like you
Oh,
said, with these,
where'd you go? Rockwood Hall over there?
no, it was like some dump, like right on the avenue. Like it was
Oh,
literally
right
like,
on Houston.
yeah, it was like literally like diagonal from where Cats was. So like if you cross the street, it was
Yeah.
those string of bars like on that side.
Oh yeah, First on First, I think, is over there, or One on
Yeah,
One. One on One, I think, has a big basement.
I think it was First on First, if I'm not mistaken.
It's First and First Avenue there, and that bar is called One on One,
Okay,
and it's got a basement because I know they do comedy shows in there too. I think they got
okay.
a decent sized basement. I've never been there, but I know they did. They
So
have done shows there.
this band holds steady. It's not a big band, but they're big enough. They've had a couple of hits throughout the years. More of indie type stuff. And literally, like you said, with these comedy shows, I walked in there. You walk into the basement, and I'm feet away from the guy. Like I can smell the alcohol coming off the guy's breath. That kind of shit. The only thing closer, like on a bigger scale, I saw Guns N' Roses in 2016, and my friend Bill, not my friend, my fraternity brother Bill Carlson, he got me front row tickets to Guns N' Roses. And like when you're front row, it's kind of like standing room only. So like when you
Yeah,
walk in
everyone's
there,
up. Yeah.
everybody's up. I guess between Lenny Kravitz and Guns N' Roses, when they were coming on, I was able to situate myself little like directly in front of the stage. And I have pictures and I have video where at some point I got so close I could smell the weed coming off them. And I was taking pictures and I was getting paranoid because I thought that Axel was looking at me. Like everybody had their cameras up, but I remember stories from the 80s thinking about how this guy used to get so pissed off at people taking pictures of him.
Yeah, when he jumped into the crowd that time, right?
So I have pictures. Like one is a background photo on my laptop and on my iPad, and it's Axl Rose going like this. He's pointing like literally what felt directly at me. So it's like the stage finale, but I got so close, Mike. Literally, I could have touched the guy. That's how close I got, and just going back to the comedy shows for a second, some of those places, so cool. They're intimate, the acoustics are great, and that must be good. What's the biggest spot on Lower East Side, or outside the Cellar? Like, what would be some of the smaller venues like that you could see a really big, big time comedian?
You got the Cellar, the Stand, and then you have like a bunch of little like theaters around. There's the Cherry Lane Theater. There's the Minetta Lane Theater. Those hold like a few hundred people. That would be like you're just going to see one comedian go do an hour. Like I've seen Colin Quinn at both of those theaters. They fit about 200 people, 300 people.
It's pretty cool. Me and a good friend of mine, Bob, I used to work with. If he's watching the show, I'll give him a little shout out. We did a double date years ago, and we went to the Westbury Drive-In, and we saw Louis Black. Have you ever seen a comedian at a drive-through?
No.
It's cool as hell. The Westbury drive-through, like in that theater, like you sit there, you have the option of, I guess, sitting in your car and watching the theater, in the amphitheater, that kind of deal. This was actually inside, but again, it was pretty cool, in terms of like, you have the option of seeing, both. We saw Louis Black back then. He was not a big fan of him, but he was okay.
Yeah, Louis Black is he's like super political.
Super
dude.
political, gravelly voice. Right.
Loves to scream.
I like the other guy, Richard Black, the guy from Seinfeld, Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Which guy?
Richard Lewis, maybe I'm thinking of.
Oh, Richard Lewis. Yeah, Richard Lewis is hilarious. Very funny guy.
He always reminds me of Eddie Money.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, he kind of does have that look. He grew up with Larry David.
Okay.
They went to like some Jewish summer camp together. And then both of them funny. And then they met years later at the Improv, the old Improv in New York on 44th Street, right between 8th and 9th Avenue, which is now like an Italian restaurant. And they started talking, and they're like, well, I went to this camp. I went to that camp. They're like, and they said they looked at each other. He goes, you're Larry David? He goes, yeah, you're Richard Lewis. And supposedly they hated each other again because they hated each other as kids. But then they grew to just be like best friends.
Do you know how big camp is out here, Mike? Like we grew up in Astoria, and it's like lower middle class kids. Like our version was maybe coming out to Long Island and Jones Beach and that kind of deal. Out here, man, camp is the shit. Like every kid goes to camp out here. It's big in the Jewish communities out here, especially in the Jewish communities, which I think is what you're mentioning with Larry David and Richard Lewis. But out here, like everybody goes. Like it's the sickest thing. Like there's so much space. They got huge backyards, pools, but every single kid goes to camp. It boggles my mind. It's like, our camp was Astoria Park in the pool.
But is it like day camp or like sleepaway camp? They're gone for the summer kind of camp.
You have both. There's sleepaway camp, which some kids do, and I think it's bigger in the Jewish community. Like the kids out here do that. But just regular camp, like it's a day camp. A lot of kids do that too. It's like maybe it's because people work. I don't know what it is.
Like meatballs. I always wanted to go to like a meatballs camp.
Oh, that would have been super cool. I went to something. It wasn't a sleepaway camp, but it was like a day camp. But we were young, man. We were maybe first, second, third grade when I went there. And my mother, I think this is even before you moved back to Astoria. We went to a summer camp. I don't remember if you remember Michael Lisa, the Iranian. Yeah. We went to some sort of day camp that kind of reminded me of that meatballs atmosphere. It was kind of like a rural area. I don't know if it was the island or if it was, upstate New York, but we were definitely in the woods, man. It was like picnic area, that type of shit. And it's just like, but Meatballs. Very cool movie.
Meatballs. That's like his big movie. That puts him on the map.
Stripes is 1980, I guess, or 81.
Yeah. Meatballs is
79
first.
or 78.
Yeah. Meatballs is first, I think, 79 or 80.
Well, he was doing SNL before,
Yeah, but I mean, I'm saying Meatballs makes him a movie star,
Yeah.
like puts him on the movie map. And then like Stripes is just the nail in the coffin as like, all right, he's really good. Speaking of nail in the coffin, The Undertaker, did you watch any of WrestleMania?
I didn't, but I caught some footage of it. It looks like Logan Paul was involved in it, and I guess he was involved in some of the matches.
I have no idea. I mean,
if I'm not mistaken,
it's such like a spectacle now.
Like, Mike, I literally haven't watched a WrestleMania. It's got to be a good 10, 15 years now. I can't even tell you the last time I watched one.
I think the last time I watched WrestleMania, it was WrestleMania like 2 or 3 with Liberace was in it. Muhammad Ali, Madison Square Garden.
No, I definitely caught. Well, like you, I watched the ones in the 80s, but there were a couple in the late 90s I watched. And I guess in the early 2000s was probably the last time
I watched. I think I watched 1 or 2 in the early 2000s with my son when he was still into it. He was a big like John Cena guy, and
right. I think that's kind of like the last time I tuned into it, maybe 10, 15 years ago in that ballpark. I still keep tabs on it. Obviously I don't follow it the way that I did. I definitely didn't watch it. I didn't feel like paying the the fee or whatever it was. But apparently Logan Paul was involved. Rey Mysterio was still around after all these years.
Dude, all these guys stick around, man. I want to say, man, these guys are not good with money. That's why they all stick around.
They make a lot of money, Mike.
I think. Chris, I think they do. I think they do okay.
I think the bigger guys definitely make a ton of money, but I think the regular guys and the smaller end of it.
I'm sure you watched the documentary as well as the Ric Flair documentary. And when I think it was like Triple H just came out and said, "Why is Ric Flair still around? Because Rick don't know how to manage his money."
Yeah, listen, I agree with you.
Oh, perfect. All right, here's another one. Okay, here's a guy who I think made a decent amount of money and should have put his pennies away. Jake the Snake Roberts, right? I don't know if you've ever seen his documentaries. There's 2 of them. There's the one Beyond the Mat, which is old. That movie's probably like over 20 years old now. That's probably the best wrestling documentary I've ever seen. where it covers the gambit from like a WrestleMania to these guys that now have to wrestle in high schools. And that was at when they made this documentary was Jake the Snake. Jake the Snake is on the video of this documentary smoking crack. Like that's how it's an insane documentary. It's awesome.
I think I caught pieces of it.
It's you know what it is, Chris? It's all the guys from our 80s wheelhouse that are out of the WWF now. And they would just, this is like the late 90s when this was made. Like it was kind of like a where are they now? Because the movie opens up with King Kong Bundy in a high school wrestling gym. And when the match is over, he is like getting changed in a chair in the middle of the gym, and people are just walking by him like, hey, great match, Bundy. Hey, he said like at his height in WWF, he was making like 300 grand a year. And they said he made $300 that night wrestling in a high school gym.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think some of these acts,
if you don't manage your money properly, it's like anything.
I agree. Listen, I agree with that.
You know, I mean, you go back and watch that ESPN doc Broke, and you see how these guys just go nuts with money once you get it. And I think too, it has to do with, all right, you and I grew up middle class, and we were always told save, save, save. If no one is telling you to like save, you're going to go nuts. Plus, number two, you're a 20-something-year-old kid and someone just handed you a check for like $11 million. You're going to do some stupid shit.
I don't think all those acts make that.
Oh, no, I don't. I'll say wrestling wise, you're right. But like when you watch this Jake the Snake documentary, the other one where DDP comes out and like kind of like saves his life and gets him sober and everything. He's living in like this shack off like a highway. It's the saddest thing you'll ever see.
I think it's probably a combination, like you said, like some of these guys don't manage their money. I think some of them don't make the money, like of the biggest stars. There's a guy that I guess is an Eddie C from a Max fraternity at St. John's, Mark Lamonaco. He's got his own show. I think I've brought him up. Macho's brought him up. You know, he's a guy. He was tag team champion at one time, Bubba Ray Dudley. You know, I don't know his financials, nor do I want to get into it, but he would probably be a good guy to figure out, you know, and talk to.
Well, he was Bubba Ray. Yeah, because think about all those years because he was in ECW for a while, right?
He had a great career, man.
All things
aside, I mean, he was WWF channel. He was in ECW, right?
But those ECW days, that guy probably made no money.
That's what I'm saying. Like as big as that guy was, I don't think.
But he did have a nice WWF run.
Absolutely. I just don't think the guy made millions like some of these guys. Like I think he did probably very well for himself. Maybe I'm wrong.
I think it depends too. All right, Chris, here, I'll tell you this, where these guys make a lot of cash, because I took my son to it twice out at the Sunrise Mall. These meet and greets.
Yeah. Okay.
I was online for 3 hours both times. One was for Rey Mysterio Jr. and the other was for one of the Hardy Boys. 3 hours online. When I went for, I think Rey Mysterio, I was with a guy I worked with at the time. His son was the same age. He goes, dude, Rey Mysterio. So we got tickets. Went. This guy bought the tickets because he lived out in Massapequa, and he asked the lady, he goes, is John Cena ever going to do this? She goes, we can't afford John Cena to come here. I think at the time, now this is over 10 years ago, Cena wants guaranteed 100 grand. And then whatever he makes off these, and then I think half of whatever they're charging for the autograph in the picture.
So think about that for a second. That's one of the biggest stars in the industry, right?
Yeah.
At the time. So he's getting 100 grand for a meet and greet. Think of a guy like a Coco Beware. Coco Beware is not getting a meet and greet anywhere near that. If he's getting 5 grand, 10 grand, I'd be shocked. That's just my personal take.
Well, I mean, that's like when you watch
in terms of like their contracts, you know, they're probably getting contracts, right? So, you know, you're paying 11 million a year to Cena, or maybe 15 million a year back in the 80s to Hogan. You're paying a Haiti kid a fraction of that. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
the Haiti kid, that was pure entertainment.
The Haiti kid. Remember they shaved his head? You can never get away with that today.
What
No
about
way.
what did Doink the Clown make in his heyday? Or
That's what I'm saying. Like some of these guys, like, and now you couple with the fact that they probably don't manage their money well, like, you know, and that doesn't just go for wrestlers, but any entertainer. You know, there's a ton of them. You know, it's been documented. You know, in the NFL, there's a great example of those guys. They don't really manage the money well, but you know, I didn't watch it, but I know it came out this week. I read a little bit about it. You know, I watched some videos about it. It looks like the Miz was involved. There's some sort of match, I guess, between the Edge and some guy. The Edge has been around 10, 15 years now, minimum.
Oh, I think he's been around way
maybe
longer.
longer. Yeah, maybe longer.
I think there's a lot too. Like that's why these guys stick around. They got nothing else. This is, I mean, it's like anything. I'm sure if most football players could stick around to their mid 40s, they would probably do it.
How good was The Wrestler, man, with Mickey Rourke?
Great movie.
Is that his best movie, or is it something different?
I love Pope of Greenwich. I love Pope of Greenwich Village.
Pope of Greenwich Village, right?
I can watch. I watch that if it's on like a pay cable channel and it's not edited. I'm watching that movie, no matter what scene it's on.
No, and I think at some point I'll probably buy it, you know, through Apple. You know, I have all my favorite movies that you can't really regularly see.
Yeah,
I just buy them and stick them in the cloud. You know, that kind of deal. Like there's an old cult classic that I think I brought up time to time called Streets of Fire with William Dafoe and Michael Pare from Eddie and the Cruisers.
Yeah. That was that like Dafoe's big movie? Does that put him on
right about one of
I want to say that puts him on the map, that movie, because he's the gang leader in that, right?
He's the gang leader.
He's the bad guy.
It's the guy from Fear who I talked about a couple weeks ago. He's an Italian guy. I forgot his name at this point, but he's friends with Belushi, that guy. He plays his sidekick. You got a young Diane Lane.
Yeah.
Michael Pare, who was in Eddie and the Cruisers.
What happened to that guy, man? He's a
Brooklyn guy, that guy. He's born in Brooklyn.
But that's such a weird. He has Eddie and the Cruisers is after that, right?
They're both around the same time.
Yeah,
it's like 83.
He has like that hit, and then he just kind of like goes away. He does a lot of like B movies. I know he's got like a lot of B movies under his belt.
They were all, I would say, between 83 and 85. The guy probably had 3 or 4 hit, you know, decent sized movies. He had Eddie and the Cruisers. He had Streets of Fire, and then I don't know if you remember it, the Philadelphia Experiment.
Yeah. Yeah, when they go back in time. Yeah.
So Macho, for the Supernatural, if you're listening out there and you tune in, I'm sure you probably watched the movie, but it's basically about an aircraft carrier that gets transported to World War II right before Pearl Harbor, a modern day aircraft carrier. Fantastic movie. It's with Kirk Douglas, and they get transported back to 1941, right before Pearl Harbor, and it shows you, they're in a position to kind of prevent the war, or at least change the outcome of Pearl Harbor. It's actually based on real events. Apparently there's some sort of time travel folklore or whatever, that there was some sort of Navy experiment in that time period where apparently something similar happened. It wasn't exactly dramatized like it was in that movie, but when you Google search time travel stories and proof of time travel, that comes up. And supposedly it got buried by the government back in the day. So the story goes somewhere like the government was messing around with time travel, like in the 1940s, somewhere in that ballpark. And apparently there was a Navy experiment that was kind of like, buried.
Well, that's the way too. Then what was it? Hitler was big into like the occult and everything. And
right.
He was trying all that shit. So, oh man,
interesting stuff. How about Elon Musk, man? Before we wrap this puppy up, looks like he bought a 10% stake in Twitter. Maybe we get a little bit of censorship change on the big Twitter.
Yeah, but what does 10% do though? That's what how much?
Nothing now.
He has no leeway right now. Like he can't.
He has no influence in terms of how.
He's not. If you're not a policymaker,
he's not a policymaker. But I can tell you this, Mike. I've read a number of stories where the left leaning type people on Twitter, especially the people that are involved with the censorship process, they're scared. They're doing their
Yeah,
resumes, and they're
he's
getting to the point where they fear that he's going to get a bigger stake, and
this
he's
is
going to.
another dude. This is like another Joe Rogan. When Rogan went to spot, oh, we don't like him. And listen, if this, I don't see them allowing him to buy enough to where I think he has a legitimate say or not.
That's not up to them, Mike. All you got
I
to do is buy the stock. That's really what
I
what he's doing, and he's got enough money to do it. Just a question of, if he wants to at this point. He bought a 10% stake, and literally, if he wants to buy half the float, he could do it. You get 51%, all of a sudden.
Yeah, that's. But I see it like them trying to block it. Either that, or they'll just say we're shutting down the site. I could see that. I could see that guy just be,
Not if he's in control. Not if he's 51% stock shareholder. That ain't happening. He's calling the shots at that point. Or at the very least, he's got a big say in it.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't see like what his end game is for getting Twitter. He could probably just start up his own kind of Twitter
He can,
if he wanted
the infrastructure is there for him, and I think he's got a bone to pick with them, because I think he got sanctioned by the SEC to the point where he literally can't talk about his stock because they felt like he was manipulating his stock through his tweets. Even with Dogecoin, which I still hold, and I think long term will be fine, but they accused him of manipulating Dogecoin basically by putting up these dopey little memes on Twitter and little stuff that they said manipulated markets. So I think he kind of really wants a bigger stake, and I think that he leans enough right that I think he's a little irritated with the way it is, and I think it's probably a pissing match for a guy like that. And in terms of I think he can buy it if he wants to, but
if you're a guy like him, aren't you just like I don't know. He's so you're so rich, and if you want to get your opinion out there, you don't need Twitter for it. I mean, I get what you're saying. It's like a pissing match in the sense of like
it is, but you also look, as much as I don't like the censorship that goes on some of these sites. Look, the Supreme Court justice brought it up. This guy brought it up. These social media sites, for lack of better terms, they may be private organizations, but they're the modern town hall. And there's a select few people in both organizations, Facebook and Twitter, that even YouTube, like we've experienced with this podcast, that they basically hold everybody at their whim. They want to let you post something, they do it. They don't, you can't do it. If they like what you say, it's fine. If they deem it misinformation, it's going off. So I think it's a little bit more complex for a guy like that. I necessarily don't think that, like you said, it really means a tremendous amount to him. But I do think that there's another element of it, in the sense that I think a guy like that doesn't like anybody pissing on him, or what he perceives to be pissing on him. But be interesting to see what happens. A couple closing things on my part. I don't know if you checked it out, but it looks like the Golden Age of Serial Killers is coming out on Netflix over the next couple weeks. The John Wayne Gacy tapes and stuff, which seems pretty interesting. I saw a case. I mean, I guess for the NYPD people out there that listen to us, looks like Fat Cat Nichols got paroled. I guess for guys being Mike's age, or probably anybody over the age of 40, or in law enforcement, remembers the Ed Byrne case where rookie officer Ed Byrne got shot and killed while sitting in his patrol car back in the late 80s. It seems that this guy, Fat Cat Nichols, is getting released after, I guess, 30 plus years in jail. I actually wanted to, I don't know if we probably have enough time, but maybe next week, I keep on saying this, I want you to go into the Eric Adams case, broken windows policies. There's still a lot of crime in New York City. And, we've kind of talked about and touched upon certain things that he's, kind of running against with the DA and what have you. But I saw today, like, he's kind of really tackling the bail reform that's going on.
He has no other. He really has like no other options at this point. You can't sit there. I mean, he has to go after the bail reform. Crime is just out. Listen,
and Mike, I saw something yesterday where like robbery and stuff, it's up 40-50%, from year over year.
Listen, everything's up right now. He's basically, as much as he probably hates Rudy Giuliani, he's got to be Rudy 2.0, right?
2.0, right.
And he's going to start out, I mean, real quick. He's going to go the old broken windows policy of start out with the smaller crimes, and it's going to lead you to the bigger crimes. Clean up the street. He's already started like a new homeless task force outreach kind of unit, which is basically just a revamped homeless outreach unit. They deal with the homelessness on the street. They try and get them into shelters. He's going to start going after a lot of quality of life crimes, from what it seems like. Ooh, excuse me. As far as like the people drinking on the street, pissing on the street, he's going to want to enforce that again. And this is what the DA's office has said they really don't want to prosecute. The fare beaters, the turnstile jumpers. It's all that little stuff that the DA's office don't want to prosecute. He's going to have to get them on board to start prosecuting these crimes.
Now, Mike, is that a case
some
of
kind
these
of
guys
difference.
being? Is it a case of the DA's ideology, or is it a case?
Yeah,
of is it just them being lazy and they just don't want to do the work for it?
The DA the DA who's in there now, the Manhattan DA, I forget his name. It's just, well, we're not prosecuting this. We're not I want to clear up the courts. I don't want to clog up the courts with BS. It was like his kind of thing. But unfortunately, if you're telling people we're not going to prosecute for these low-level crimes, people are going to do it. And then you're seeing actually people who are getting locked up for like misdemeanors and Class D felonies, and they're just getting released. They're going through the system for 3-4 hours and getting released. So that's what Adams has to address and change. And that's going to be the hardest obstacle of his mayorship, or whatever you want to call it. If he can get that done, then he's got a shot. If that doesn't get done, it's going to be business as usual from what we've been seeing in the city lately. And that's it.
I read something into it. And I know we're probably up against time at this point, but I kind of wonder, just as a layperson, who's not in law enforcement, never's been in law enforcement, in terms of, is it really just about the bail reform? Is it about like what I read some stuff about, like this guy George Soros, kind of funding these DAs, these liberal DAs throughout.
But that's like anything. I mean, you could go back and say then the what are they? The Koch brothers, the billionaire. They're going to back who's going to help them. Who's going to push. If you and I had billions of dollars, then we're going to back whatever DA is going to push our agenda. That's all.
I just don't understand. Like, I know Soros has kind of really wanted to revamp the judicial system in this country for many years, but I just don't know what his end result is. It's like, I mean, you get a right wing slant, as far as what they think it is, and then a left wing slant. But,
well, you have that guy has so much money, nothing affects him. It's he can do whatever he's going to do whatever he wants anyway.
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to push. If he's a Democratic backer, so he's going to push whatever Democratic agenda is out there. The same way, like I said, with the Koch brothers are going to push a conservative Republican agenda. He's pushing a super liberal, super Democratic agenda because he has billions of dollars to do it.
That makes sense. Makes sense. I mean, listen, I applaud the guy. I applaud the mayor. It seems like he's trying to get it under control, and it looks like he's moving in the right direction. I just saw some statistics that just drew the roof. Like, you're talking like stuff like robbery, assault, up 60% year over year. Just really, really out of control. Now, do you think it's just a case of the prosecution or lack of, or do you think it's like a lot of folks like you retiring prematurely because for whatever their reason is?
No, it's just it's a revolving door right now. No one is being punished. There's no one being punished. You get arrested, you're out in a few hours, and that's it. I mean, read the paper every time you see a crime either happening on the street, the subway, whatever, where it's an assault, a robbery, a shooting, and they're locking these people up, and you'll see the rap sheet will come out of, well, in the last year, he's been locked up 8 times. 3 of them were felonies. and
Right.
3 cases pending. A lot of the shootings are like that. I mean, unfortunately, there's a lot of teenage kids out there shooting people, and the juvenile system has always been very lenient, always been, which in a way I think it should be. They're kids, but it's not like little Johnny stole a candy bar. Little
Right.
Johnny
Shooting somebody in
shot
the face. Right.
little
Yeah.
Johnny shot somebody or robbed somebody at gunpoint.
Right.
And
Right. Right.
they're
Well, I do
really
see they put together that unit, the gun unit, right? So that's
yeah,
back in
it's
force.
just a revamp. Like I said, he's going to try and do Giuliani 2.0 of trying to, and they also wanted to do what like Commissioner Shea put in, the precision policing and just targeting the right people. It's going to be a lot of work. That's all I know. That's all I can say, really. It's going to be a lot of work, and there is still a lot of obstacles and a lot of hoops that Adams has to jump through to accomplish all of his goals. Like I said, we'll just have to wait and see on it.
Yeah, listen, it's a shame, man. It's a shame. It just, I was having a conversation with my mom. I think we talked about this a couple weeks ago, where I just deterred her from like using the subway, and she's like, it's pretty bad.
No, I wouldn't.
I guess they got a Uber coming back from Manhattan, but she's like, you're on it, and it's like it reminded her of like when we were kids. It's like you're on the subway, and it's like,
oh, it's 100 times worse, man.
what homeless vagrant is
Yeah.
panhandling, and who's coming up to you and that nonsense.
I mean, depending on what line you ride, it's bad, man. They're just like roving homeless shelters at this point.
I haven't been on New York subway in probably at least pre-COVID. Let's put it that way. It's got to be about 4 or 5 years since I've ridden the subway. At this point, Mike, I don't know if you've experienced it. Is it worse now, or is it than when we were kids, or is it similar?
You know what? When we were kids, here's the thing I'll say from when we were kids. It was like grimier and dirtier. They have cleaned up the subway a little. It still stinks of piss a lot.
Right.
It's a little bit more cleaned up. Well, the trains aren't covered in graffiti anymore. There's not graffiti. That's about it. They've cleaned that stuff up. But it's still it seems like all of the homeless has just said we're going underground.
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm getting. Like post-COVID, post-COVID, do you get like that? The Vietnam vet who's like begging with, and
no, it's not even that.
Kind of stuff.
It's not even like the guy with the sign, "I'm a homeless veteran." It's just crazy, loony people. It's just like a lot of people that were let out of, institutions and are off their meds. That's the way I look at it. I mean, I the last time I took the train was probably 3-4 months ago. When I was going into the city to do something in like Times Square. I took the train from my house to Times Square, which is about 8 stops, 9 stops. And
now, as retired law enforcement, do you still have the ability to carry a firearm, or no? Do you have to get a permit for that?
You get a permit when you retire. Well, I live in the city, so I got a permit when I retired. And when you live outside,
you're still able to legally carry then?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know what the rules are out here, but
no, if you live out, like if I lived where you lived, I would have to go to the Suffolk County Courthouse, and there's some paperwork you have to do out there, and a judge has to go. He hits the gavel and goes, "Okay, you get a permit or whatever."
So you can legally conceal. You have it. You don't.
Yeah, pretty much. When you retire, they either tell you yes or no. If you were a bad boy, they tell you no. If you were a good boy like me, they tell you yes. 99% of the people are good boys when they retire, and they go, "Here you go." That's all.
Cool. I guess on that note, wrap it up.
All right, plug away. No, I'm good. Plug it up.
All right, folks. Well, we appreciate everybody continuing to listen and grow the channel. Please spread the word. A couple people I'd just like to plug again myself, www.djchrisclash.com. I'm booked in June now and going into August. I have a couple openings in July. Seems like COVID is really over this time. So it's getting very busy, but reach out to me if you need something, private event, weddings, corporate functions, whatever. Just reach out to me. I'll try to fit you in. I'll work with you the best I can. Check out Tommy Devitt's place. I think Tommy might be moving to Florida soon, so he may be taking his store elsewhere, but 5-Star Shopping by Tommy D, 917-559-8264. You can also check out the Mad Donkey on 36th Avenue in Astoria. We got Vladdy's Place up on 53 Bruckner Boulevard, Vlad E9 Bistro, 53 Bruckner Boulevard. Our buddy Mike Power down in North Carolina, Celtic Monkey, for those in the North Carolina area. And we got Jay Cristiano, Cardinal Financial, 844-442-7334, promo code 4215 for your refi and purchase needs. And lastly, my buddy Eugene, Piazza's Pizza up in Rye, New York. Eugene's Italian Fare. You got 914-921-4444. If you're in the area, check Eugene's place out. I don't think he's too far from Rye Playland, if I'm not mistaken. With that said, we'll pass along to Mike and put this puppy to bed.
Yeah, my usuals. Check out Jack at I Can Paint. He's got some new stuff up. I think some superhero stuff is up. Pat Dixon, as always, Crime Report and Compound Media. And as for me, the end of the month, April 24th, I'll be at O'Keefe's on Court Street in Brooklyn at 8:30. I'm doing a show there. And the big one, folks, April 30th, Broadway Comedy Club. I'll be doing a show at 6 p.m. Go on my Instagram, Michael Sully Comic, for tickets. You can get the tickets online and save $5. Hope to see you there. Please, as always, like and subscribe, share the show. It's the only way we grow. Put a comment in too while you're at it. And that's about it. We'll see you guys next week. Thank you as always for tuning in. Be good, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, folks.